So that's why I didn't. I have a sore spot for blood transfusions being the thing to fix. Watch, one day that's what's going to save my life.
Yeah. Well, if they do a blood transfusion in a way that a blood transfusion would actually solve anything,
Right.
which is more likely what would save your life if you needed a blood transfusion.
By the way, we're going.
Oh, yeah, we know.
We figured.
That's why we were just bantering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cool. Banter. Bruce.
Don't make the banter angry.
Yeah. I'm Bruce Banter. He's David Banter.
David Banter, I'm sorry I wrecked your car.
Sometimes I have trouble remembering that Eric Bana is not one of the
Yeah.
like comic book honks, like the names of the alternate personas.
That's funny.
Eric Bana.
Good, we harmonized there. That was awesome. Cool beans.
I would like to know why I don't hear me.
We hear you.
Oh, okay, good.
We do, but you sound a bit far away-ish. It just... And I don't know, again, because we've established several times that the headphones don't always give out
The same.
That's true.
the true sound.
That's true.
So let's
That's
just keep going forward, right?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
So we are recording this podcast in the wake of we just saw Star Trek, the new
We
one.
did.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ah.
And out
That's
of
what it's called, right? Star Trek New?
yes.
Star Trek Into Newness.
And in consideration of both of our fans that listen to this weekly podcast, we won't discuss any of the plot points.
Especially since some of them are on foreign soil and maybe haven't even gotten it yet.
Ooh.
That was very considerate of you. Thank
yeah,
you.
well, you know,
Trying
that's
something
me.
new.
I care about people. Unlike that character who So the other big thing is we're all back in the same room for a change.
Yeah, we did not think that was going to happen this week.
Or ever. Because we're moving even further apart from each other
Right.
over the course of the next 3 months.
And I thought you were going to say, we did not think that through.
Yeah.
Well, we also didn't do that, but we've never thought any of this through.
No.
That's true.
So why start now?
Yeah. We're a largely reactionary crowd. Yeah, so this is probably our last all three of us in the room podcast.
Ever.
Maybe ever.
It's possible.
Maybe ever.
Yar.
We'd have to keep it going for 3 years.
Yar.
At least. Cool. Well, on that happy note.
No, it is happy because it's all the starts of grand adventures.
Right. We're all doing good things. It's not like I'm
Going back to prison.
I was going to say fulfilling the apocryphal podcast we did on number 10 where I go to live in the woods with a cult.
Not too fast there. It is Kentucky.
That's true. I'd be going to the mountains then to join a cult. But there's trees on those mountains.
Sure. Well, you could start there and then move up to Montana or wherever it was you supposedly ended up.
I can't remember now. Ah, memories.
Oh, Montana.
We have none.
Yeah. But yeah, I literally we're packing up my house tomorrow, putting it in the truck, and I drive the day after that to Kentucky. Yeah, and you're in the 100-day countdown.
I am.
Right?
I accidentally discovered that I was buying my ticket exactly 100 days before I was going to leave Atlanta.
Oh,
So
wow.
I am within 100 days of leaving for grad school.
Sounds like a Nicholas Sparks book or movie is in there somewhere. The
100
last
days
100
to grad
days.
school.
Yeah. No. See, grad school, because then that lets you know what's happening next. You would just say the last 100 days.
Oh, yeah. Make it sound like it's...
All big and dramatic and emo, and then you find out, oh, he's just going to grad school.
And I feel big and dramatic and emo, but then I kind of wonder if it's not going to be. Like, it's going to be a thing, like a big thing, and it's going to change the way I approach a lot of things. I'm going to live in a non-English speaking country for the first time. But at the same time, it's school. And as much as I freak out about all the other things, it's like it's designed to be not only survived, but experienced and I think I am giving it more import.
Weight and yeah.
And yet that doesn't change the panic attacks and
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. That's what I don't think I've had a full on panic attack yet, but I told Jeff, last week. It wasn't until I was driving to your house. I think it was Tuesday of last week, and I had the first sort of realization of, oh, in about a week from now, I will live in another state and do something completely different.
Right.
And there's been little bursts of that ever since, like when we closed Ramona Quimby on Friday, and just little percolations of that.
yeah, I'm starting to hit the really early moments of I'm never going to do X again before I'm, leaving or coming back or whatever. And, so wrapping up a show,
Yeah. It is our trek into darkness. Sorry.
Nice.
Hey, you're welcome. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'm not sure we can actually honor our opening pledge to avoid referencing this movie for the next 40 minutes.
We should try.
We should try, but I
try.
can't
We
promise.
should try.
But, all good promises were meant to be broken. You think your podcast is safe.
Not bad.
Thank you.
Is there anything you wouldn't do for your podcast?
You guys are like my family.
Oh,
I can't make any joke that doesn't reference something in the movie I don't want to give.
I saw, all the wheels
I was like,
turning. Yeah.
what's in the trailers? What's in the trailers?
Well, speaking of darkness and death,
Sure.
there was a...
Is that ever not your jumping off point?
It always is. Join me in the abyss. So last week was the death, the anniversary of the death of Andy Kaufman.
Okay.
May 16th is the day he died, and y'all know who Andy Kaufman
Yes.
is, right?
Yeah.
And there's there's always that weird thing. There's websites and like crazy fans out
That
there.
he's alive?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there was just more.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, he did weirder things in the course of his career.
And
Cheat death?
and well,
no, then
Well, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, there were big sort of pranks that he pulled, like his whole thing with when he became a wrestler for a while, and
his manager,
yeah.
he became his own manager and switched identities.
Yeah, and as he was, I think in the last like 2 years of his life, as he was dying, he made that prediction. He was like, in 20 years, I will resurface. This is all a joke, and yeah. So he fed a lot of those rumors going into death, but since then there have been several things, especially in the last couple of years. There's been like on the 20th anniversary of his death, his writing partner Bob Samuda threw like a great big sort of party sort of thing, and everybody was like, is he going to appear?
Alfred, did he do the Alfred showing up as Batman thing?
No,
No. Shut up.
But that was the thing. They thought he was going to resurface, and then a couple of years ago, there was a guy that said he was Andy Kaufman, and he'd been in hiding all this time, and he appeared, and they filmed it. I think it was in 2008. You can watch it online. I've watched it online of this person that had a podcast, and this man appears and is wearing like a Frankenstein mask, some monster mask, and so he conducts the whole interview in the mask, and it turns out that guy, whose name is Stephen Maddox, I believe he's the one that maintains like the Andy Kaufman site that's called Andy Kaufman Lives. And since then, he has had a lot of weird sort of erratic behavior himself. And his most recent thing is he has kind of fallen off the grid. Supposedly he moved back to where Andy Kaufman was supposed to be living in Arizona, and has changed his name, and his last claim to this fantasy that he is actually the son of Andy Kaufman, that Andy Kaufman fathered a child like before he became famous, and in the last couple of years of his life went back to the mother of this guy, and they switched identities, and so that the Andy Kaufman that died was actually the man that this guy's mother was married to, and so that the real Andy Kaufman is still living with his mother somewhere in the world.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
No, that's why it's happening.
Right.
That's why it can propagate on the internet.
Right. But yeah, so he may or may not be out there.
Mr. Kaufman, if you would like to grant us an interview, please contact artechniquepodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah. Or, yeah. Well done. I didn't even think about that. Thank you, Aaron.
He's probably got a Google search hit on his name. You know, the Google alert.
Right. So, Andy, did you hear about this one?
Huh?
Hmm?
Come on, what would be a better punchline than making your grand reappearance on this podcast?
That's right. Give us a bump, Andy. Come on, give us a bump.
The Andy Kaufman bump.
Or-
That would be
or
cocaine, by the
crazy-
way. The Andy Kaufman bump was cocaine.
Or crazy, not Andy Kaufman's son living in the desert man. If you would like to be on the show, just
yeah.
send us an
Anybody.
email.
I'm pretty sure he'd be awesome to talk to.
And you can be on the show, and you can be on the show.
Cool. But
Looking around, who's going to take articles? Who's going to take articles?
all right. So also this week, my brother was telling me something funny about my little nephews. The youngest one, Connor. I always get ages wrong. I think he's 5.
It's because you're timeless.
I am timeless, and I'm really bad with keeping track of those things.
Well, it's not about you, and it starts losing interest.
But no, I honestly forgot how old I was for about 3 years. Like for the first couple of years of my 30s, I literally couldn't tell you how old I was, or I would tell you the wrong number, and not because I was trying to trick anybody. I would just literally forget how old I was.
I have to think about it every time I have to think about it. You know,
Yeah.
I have to go. Okay, let's see. If last year I no wait.
Yeah, I would just very confidently go, "I'm 32." And then somebody around me would go, "You're 33," or I would, like I was like, "Oh, okay, they must be right."
You're closer than I usually get on my first guess.
I'm at least in the 30s. But Connor, the youngest one, he is in preschool, he's in pre-kindergarten, whatever they
Whatever that's
call it.
called these
Yeah.
days.
And so he only goes half days. And so the second half of the day, my mom picks him up. And so he spends a great deal of time with my mom.
And how does that go?
Well, apparently the other day, my brother told me they were in the car, the whole family. They were going somewhere, and Connor and Tyler sit in the back, and of course, mercilessly fight as very close in age brothers do. At one point, Connor said to Tyler, he called him a dumbass, but he did it in a way that he was kind of like exhaling, like muttering, like a dumbass. Which is exactly how my mother says it.
Signature move.
Yes. And so then that caught the attention of my brother's ears, and he started paying attention for the rest of the day and realized that that Connor is basically repeating and incorporating all the swears that he obviously has been hearing my mother do for the last 6-7 months that they've been living there. Things like, ooh, that really frost my cookies, and
I like that that's in her bag.
older, yeah, it is.
Frost my cookies.
Along with, the F word and dumbass and other things,
The F word is frost, right?
It is.
Frost this.
The F word is frost.
The F word is frost. Yep. So, So Connor's swearing and
But like a 1920s carny.
Frost you and frost you.
Yeah.
Frost you. Frost
but again,
you.
think about my stock. Where do I come from?
1920s
I come
carnies.
from 1920s carnies. For those that are playing along, my dad's parents were literally carnies. Literally. His mom was named Apollonia Dembski, and she was kind of a burlesque snake handler in the sideshow. And my father's father, John Montague, he was like one of the circus workers. Like they put up the tent, and
Sure.
he was
The
a
hands.
techie. He was a techie, basically. Yeah.
For carnies.
Yeah.
Techies for carnies. Sounds like a support group of some sort. I guess it is.
It is.
Supports the production.
So cool. All right, I'm just going to keep talking unless y'all
I
jump in with an
am-
article.
Yeah.
No, I want to say
Okay.
I'm disappointed. We've had this challenge out there in the world for almost, or at least a little over a week now, and I still don't have a Wikipedia page,
Oh.
and that really makes me sad. I didn't know how much I wanted one until this challenge was accidentally proffered by Jeff. But you know what? I have this bigger plan now. The goal is I have 2 years to convince the internet that I'm famous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it's really an impractical difference between having people believe me to be famous and me actually being famous.
Or the lie and the truth.
Yeah.
That's the trick I use. Lies.
They're so warm.
But if all of the internet believes me to be famous, I am
Therefore
famous.
Yeah.
Or notorious.
Which I will take. And I think the starting point of this is a Wikipedia page.
Okay.
If they don't give you a Wikipedia page, I am not giving Wikipedia my $5 next year.
There you go. Somebody
that
out
site
there
running.
who doesn't want to contribute to Wikipedia financially, put up a page and then Jeff will donate financially.
Wow.
I make no promises.
Right.
It just means I won't withhold. You like that free content, internet? Do you?
Yeah.
Do you? I have an article I suppose I could go into.
Do it.
So the really crappy headline that caught my eye for this was the evolution of the disco ball is now complete. And it was a really kind of awful, reductive headline from it might be Fast Company Design. I can't remember. Fast Company. I never liked their website, but
one more time.
I think it's Fast Company.
No, the headline.
Oh, the
please.
headline. The evolution of the disco ball is complete.
Okay.
All right. But when I dug deeper into the article, it's actually far cooler than a disco ball. It is essentially,
I find it difficult to believe that anything is far cooler than a disco ball, but please continue.
All right. Okay. All right. What you have to imagine is you see this
Disco
cloud.
ball. Okay.
Well, no, you see this cloud, and it's got thousands of these little ping pong ball size balls, right? And all of that is kind of suspended over water. All right, and then it sort of lights up with blue lasers that are going and drawing lines over all of these thousands of spherical surfaces, right? And as you get closer to the disco ball, if you will, disco balls, thousands
Disco
of them,
cloud.
disco cloud. As you get closer to the disco cloud, you realize that the patterns and everything that's tracing through it are responding to your movement, right? And it's not just that these spheres are kind of lit up. It's that every one of them is evenly lit. So they are all like perfectly lit, and it chases patterns through the mass. So it's not the sphere itself doesn't have to be a sphere the whole time. Any particular subset of the balls can be fully lit through these lasers at multiple angles, and patterns and shapes and things can trace through them and snake through them, and it can do really, really interesting things. And all that motion type stuff, the thing that responds to the viewer, is based off of about 6 Xbox Kinect units, and then the rest is just 3D is just lasers shooting onto ping pong balls. But it's
And what more do you really need?
a lot more than you need than lasers on ping pong balls. But it's called Fluidic, and it's by White Void, and it took them 7 months to make this thing. It's got 12,000 spheres suspended by 4,100 strings. And there's a funny little tagline that Fast Company used that said, "We may be able to dynamically map photons with sophisticated 3D motion sensors, but someone's still got to put the whole thing together by hand." And I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, it's the motion of it that's really so awesome, and the fact that there's not the same kind of like fall off, that all the spheres kind of get lit pretty darn well, so that they're sort of on off, and they can. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Even as you were describing it, it almost sounded like a brain. You know what I mean?
Watching
like
the animation of the synapses on
fire across.
Yeah. But I think it's cool the response to the visitors. Like it sees the visitors in the room and reacts according to them. I guess you could like pre-program it with like chasers, like you would a Christmas tree or something.
Yeah.
But I think it's more interesting.
So that something's happening as you walk in is the program,
Right.
and then it deviates.
I wonder if it's just got like a static loop, like you're saying, and then you walk in and it responds. But I thought that was pretty cool.
Cool.
So that's my article. So there.
That's really
That's
neat.
my thing.
What do you think? Let me ask you. What do you think might be a broader application of this disco ball brain cloud? I'm just going to keep adding adjectives as we go along.
I guess currently, mostly I see a lot of entertainment value. I see, let's see, since I just saw Star Trek, if you put it in a spaceship, I would put it in...
Stellar cartography.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. I was going to say sick bay. it's a nauseous. It's a nausea test.
Go into the light. Oh, it's over there. It's over there. Oh.
That'll keep you alive another minute. Or or if it were a game for rehabilitation therapy, if it responds to your movements and your objective is to get it to make a certain pattern that it only does if you do a motion correctly or with a certain amount of effort or velocity, like I could see that.
Totally, yeah.
What if you could shrink the pixel basically, so that instead of a ping pong ball size, you had a marble size or a smaller size, but exponentially more of them? You could create almost a solid hologram interaction. Like if you lit them up so that it was a person and it responded to your movement, and you could do it for like two-way communication where like Adam is in Lexington surrounded by Kinect cameras, and that image is projected onto our disco cloud so that it's like he's in the room.
Ooh.
I like that a lot. And then if you are killed courageously by a tar monster in battle, you can give your final speech through disco balls.
Or his sentience could be downloaded into the disco cloud, and he could be a disco cloud entity.
Like Zordon.
Like Zordon.
Rangers.
What's wrong, Zordon? Why do you sound so...
Strokey.
In fairness, I never really watched the show, so I can't. I know I saw it every once in a while watching, because it came out. I was just a little too old for it, and so
I was too, but I watched it anyway.
I saw some of the episodes because kids I would babysit were into it, and so I know I saw some of the episodes.
Man, that's got to be the best excuse I've ever heard for how you happen to have watched Power Rangers. That was good. That was good. I almost believe your lie.
But I'm just saying, I don't remember.
Don't tell me you
anything
don't
about
know
it.
the saga of the Green Ranger.
I don't.
Season 1.
I don't know what that is.
He's like an MMA fighter now.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Well, then I should know who he is because I watch him. And
Part of his
MMA.
shtick is like Green Ranger emblems and things.
What?
Oh.
Yeah. He's embraced it and run. I mean, he came back as the grown-up a couple seasons later. He was like the grown-up, and he was the Zordon of the Dino Thunder series.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was his title, The Grown Up.
The grown-up.
Oh.
Go, middle-aged Ranger.
It was a little
Look
bit.
at your belly spreading.
You know, it was funny. I saw like him in the trailer, and I was like, "What the?" So I had to find out how he was involved again. And then BuzzFeed, like a week ago, had a like, "Where are they now?" Original Rangers spread, and they like traced all the different Rangers to what they're doing.
I have to see this. I have to see this.
Well,
Sure.
let's see here. While Jeff's
I'm looking this up. Green Ranger, where are you now? Well, where is he now?
because he's looking it up. He's doing a search. He's Googling, which is a little bit like gambling.
I got the first result is from Topless Robot.
Topless robot.
The Green Ranger is now a mixed martial arts fighter. No, seriously. Wow, he looks tough.
Yeah,
He looks
he
tough.
could kick our ass.
Yeah.
Covered with tattoos.
Not all of the
He could
Rangers-
kick our ass then, too, though. Let's be clear.
But not all of the Rangers have fared as well as he has.
That's true.
Yeah.
Tommy does not look like he has. I mean, I'm not going to challenge him on air because at some point he could do backflips and.
I can just change colors and just find out where they all are.
Who is Tommy?
He was the Red Ranger.
Okay.
Adam.
Yeah, I don't know.
Adam.
I'm looking at the pictures right now as Jeff pulls them up on the giant computer.
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 Blue Ranger's looking a little old there.
But he's doing some cool
All
stuff.
right.
Well, if you think about, I mean, that series would have had to come out 15, 20 years ago, man.
Red Ranger got fat.
Yeah, they didn't want to say it, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think
Red
about
Ranger
what
guy.
our age is right now.
he looks-
I'm 34, and
Yeah.
I can do math,
Yeah.
and 34 minus 20 would be about when Power Rangers came out.
Right. Red Ranger.
That's
He
14.
kind of looks DUI in this photo.
UI.
And so they had to be
Okay,
in
I'm
their
gonna stop.
early 20s. So
I'm going to stop looking that up because then tragedy
So at this
strikes.
point now they'd be older than us, probably 40s.
well, they were always older than us. That's how time works, Adam.
Oh, right.
What?
What?
I don't understand what you just said.
They're always older
You
than
said
us.
now they'd be older than we are. But they
they
were
were
older
always
than
older
we
than we
were
were.
then, too.
Right. I was just making the point that they were older than us when we were 14, and so they'd be significantly older now.
Well, they
I
would be
think
the
we're
same
arguing the
amount
same
older.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. That's why I didn't understand why you're correcting me.
We would all be
What?
significantly older in that pool, right? That's where we're at. Everyone would be significantly.
Everyone
Yes.
is older than they
Yes.
were when they were younger.
Again,
Is the
it was
You're
20
saying
years
they
ago.
are even closer to death.
Well, I may
Oh,
be
one
closer to
of
death
them is,
right now, too. We
Oh,
don't know.
Yeah, one of them did pass away. That's regrettable. I'm sorry. No, it was really an awful story, but
Okay.
I forgot about that when I started the Where Are They Now Power Ranger
Sure.
thing.
Well, it's always a risk you run when you talk about the Power Rangers.
Yeah, well, Adam's always the one that breaks deaths to me on the show of people I kind of know. So now it's my turn.
Well, Andy, but
Andy
but there's a
Kaufman's
difference.
dead?
But there's a difference here. I tell you people that have died that I feel we both mutually know. I don't know who any of these people are, so I'm feeling nothing as you're like, oh, this, and I don't even know who. You didn't even. Did you say who it was that died? Don't say it then.
No, we're
Okay.
gonna move on.
All right, so we're going to move on. So speaking of Russian roulette, I don't know. I hope that's not how he died.
Moving forward.
Okay. No. There was this museum in. Oh gosh, I've forgotten now. I've looked at several articles. Anyway, it's this interactive exhibit. It's this interactive exhibit, and it is dealing with the science of risk. And so they have taken this museum, and apparently this is a challenge that they do every year, that they turn over this one part of the museum, which I will find at some point as we start talking, and basically turn it over to scientists to create an interactive exhibit to explore some facet of math or science. And so this year, this location, which I will reveal shortly, keep saying that, is all about like gambling and risk and things like that. So they've kind of made up the museum to kind of look like a casino. There are slot machines. There's a Texas Hold'em table, but as you play Texas Hold'em, you put like biometric stuff all over you, and so it measures heart rate and like CO2 output and all this stuff. And so it's this just kind of fun, quirky sort of what happens to your body when you are weighing options, as well as trying to communicate to people ideas about probability and things like that.
Game theory.
Game theory, yeah, because we all have these sort of like superstitious things that we, don't do or do thinking it's going to make an outcome more likely. Like if you're they made an example of there was one where you're spinning a wheel that has so many numbers on it, and even if a number has just come up on the next spin, the odds are not greater or less that number will come up again. You know what I mean?
The
Yeah.
gambler's fallacy.
Right. But yeah. And so it just seemed really interesting to me. I think mostly I came across this because the Powerball, we're recording this right now, and the Powerball was like $600 million, and they just announced this morning that somebody in like North Florida won it. And I remember every time like the Powerball gets way up there on the news, you start seeing all those stories about people that have their systems and this, that, and the other. And then there's those weird like statistical anomaly type people that
The
have
system somehow works even though it
Right.
can't.
Right. There was one person out Midwest somewhere that they have won a lottery drawing 3 times over the course of their life, and like significant payouts of hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. But they have like their system of I always play these numbers, or there was another guy that's won a couple of times that always says like he never picks his own numbers and only does like the generated ones where you just give him the money in a blank slip. And it's just weird, all these little I don't know, these sort of curiosities and superstitions, I guess that's what to call them, that you kind of hold on to as
And as soon as they seem to work, it reinforces it, even though there's no logical basis.
Yep.
And when somebody's won the lottery 3 times, how can you argue that clearly they must be winning intentionally versus they've just had a really great
They've just
string
had a
of,
good run. Yeah.
you know, how many times have they played?
I like the biometrics angle. That way, you know if the when you're gambling, if the Frenchman's poison your drink, and if you can trust that lady who supposedly has all the money of the treasury.
He's referencing Casino Royale.
I am.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't hear that. Yeah. Speaking of James Bond, I read an interesting little teaser the other day because, you know, they're gearing up for, was it Bond 28 or whatever the next Bond movie is, however many there's been. But apparently they have made an offer or in negotiations with Christopher Nolan to direct the next Bond film.
Huh.
He'd be good at that. He's good at most things.
He does good at anything. Yeah.
You know.
I don't know why I have never been a Bond fan.
I was not until Casino Royale, and it was just so good. I mean, it was just so good that I was like, okay, yep.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's a similar thing to, I will say this again, 2009 Star Trek. It really is, because it was fast-paced, it was really visceral, and it wasn't sentimental with the stuff that had come before with Bond, because there's that one scene where he's at the bar, no spoilers, and he says...
it's been out for several years.
Right. There's a thing where he orders a martini, and the guy's like shaking or stirred, and he says, do I look like I give a damn? And I'm like, this is my Bond. I like this. Yes. And we just pretend Quantum of Solace did not happen.
Well, like
It basically didn't.
Well, I think Quantum of Solace was a decent movie, but again, it was Act 4 of Casino Royale.
Yeah, it was.
That's really what it was. But speaking of Bond, I mean, Bond, the flavor of what Bond is has changed a lot over the years. Because when I got into Bond, it was, I guess by the time I was aware of it, Timothy Dalton would have been James Bond, but it would have. But the ones that I watched was the Roger Moore one, which was very silly and sexual. Like, I mean, Bond is always sexual, but it was.
But like that, what Austin Powers is nudging at.
Yeah.
Adam West Batman.
What?
Adam West Batman.
Yeah, Adam West Batman.
Yeah,
that'd be a good parallel.
That's why I said it.
Sure. Well done. Well done. You get a cookie.
All right. Wait. Didn't we reference cookies earlier?
I don't know.
No. Moving on.
I don't know.
Cookie pants.
I don't.
James Bond. James Bond. Roger
Okay.
Moore, James Bond. James Bond.
I'm really my brain. I was trying to go back and think. Did we? No. Just James Bond changes depending upon, I guess, that Daniel Craig James Bond is now
The hero we deserve.
yes, but he's for where we are culturally. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like Roger Moore James Bond
like,
wouldn't fly anymore.
He is the same kind of character that is written when you read the Ultimates. Specifically, the Ultimates from Marvel's Ultimate comic line, which was the Ultimate Universe is a different universe than the regular Marvel universe, and it's their version of the Avengers. So it's Captain America and Thor and all of them that you know. But it's very, it's kind of like, I think it's kind of like a book called The Authority. If I'm wrong, send us a flood of emails. Fine. But it's really,
just one, please. We want to know somebody's out there.
yes, right. Anybody.
We're not just screaming into the void.
I'm not allowed to do that this week.
Yeah. Aaron's microphone's really hot.
But it's really like gritty, and it's really kind of real world problems, and taking the superhero thing and really making it tough and so yeah, so it's the same kind of thing, same kind of gritty, ultra violent.
That's pronounced
bitter,
ultraviolet.
Don't get me started on ultraviolet. Bitter kind of thing. So
yeah, the name of the gallery it's just the Science Gallery in Dublin, and the name of the show that looks like it is still going on. It's called the Risk Lab.
All right,
at the Science Gallery in Dublin. So if you are in Dublin or roundabouts, go check them out.
Check them out.
Speaking of finding art in your area,
yeah,
I have discovered an app that is currently in production called Musi.
Go on.
It is basically an app designed to help connect art creators and art audiences in new, easier ways. Some commercial, Artsy is very much about connecting, or Etsy is very much about connecting sort of crafters to their consumers. Musi seems to be a mobile app exclusively. It's meant to be used on your phone as you're going when you're in the world, but it's about connecting art creators and audiences. So you can register your sculpture or your paintings. So if you're a visual artist in Atlanta and you're looking for people interested in your work, you can post samples of it and say, well, I'm up in this gallery this week. And it's sort of an interesting use of technology to try and connect those audiences that can't always easily find each other.
How do you spell it?
Musi?
Yes, how do you spell
Muse probably.
EY?
I was looking up all kinds of variations and like
They were all wrong.
yep, I was
Yeah.
all wrong.
Mulery.
Musey. Musey.
Musey.
Why? Because we
Why
want to
is
sell our art.
We gotta eat.
We really do.
Well, maybe the three of us don't need to eat.
Not as much.
We could stand to skip. We could stand to.
I need to eat. My insulin levels need to be good so I don't get mad and eat off my arm and my leg. And maybe your face.
Don't joke about insulin levels,
Nom,
man.
nom, nom, nom,
Don't
nom.
joke about them.
You're looking pale, buddy.
No, I'm not. Shut up.
Pale.
I am not. Oh, well. That's cool.
Yeah.
I came across, speaking of apps, I'm just going to throw that in there. There was two apps that I came across this week. One was one called Boycott.
Boycott?
Boycott.
Like the opposite of a boycott?
Well, no, not opposite of, but exactly. Well, let me explain what it is then.
Oh, okay.
Because it could
All
really
right.
be used both ways.
Okay, all right.
It's the programmer that made it. His name's Ivan Pardo, and it's a free download for. It's a free download for both Android and iPhone. And essentially, it's like a barcode scanner that you can scan things that you buy in the store. It sounds like food products mostly right now. That seems to be their thing. And I mean, as opposed to like clothes and other things
but
that you buy.
I think I'm seeing where it's gonna go.
And so what happens is then it gives you basically a listing of all the corporations that food has to process through before it ends up on the shelf. So if possibly it's one that uses like genetically modified, organisms in it and things like that, and you want to avoid that sort of thing, or if it's made by a parent company that you morally or ethically are against, it will let you know.
Yeah.
And so then it could be used for both boycotting certain products or seeking out products.
Yeah, I have
that
heard
do,
the term boycott, like when J.C. Penney's was asked by Million Moms to boot Ellen, and they were like, no.
No, yeah.
There was a boycott at J.C. Penney's. There was like a specific afternoon that people were encouraged to go and buy something, anything, as a thank you for standing up on her behalf and for the community.
Yeah. And so, it's they said, because I think it just released like this week or within the last week or so, their website has been overloaded with traffic and difficult
Because everybody's
to keep
trying
up.
it out.
Right. And they said also the Android one has a little bit of a bug in it that they're trying to fix at the moment. But it just, I don't know, it was a cool sort of positive little thing that I stumbled across and I liked it. So
That's very cool.
check it out. Boycott.
That's going to cause purchase paralysis for me in so many.
But it's so weird because I mean, recently in the last 2 years or so, there's been a lot of boycotts being called for certain organizations.
Well, you can't keep anything secret nowadays.
Right.
Nope.
The information's out there, and so this is a wonderful app that makes it accessible very quickly and efficiently. But I think that the counter of that is you look at the products that we buy every day, and there could be made an argument sometimes to say that we can't live without, or we've created an environment where we choose not to live without them. It's I think you'd be hard pressed to find certain products that have not touched all of these various organizations. And it comes down to, there's only like really 7 sort of mega corporations that are the parents of
all the other
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
So I think this is a very useful thing. It'll be curious to see what larger good, I guess, it could work out. Only time will be able to tell.
Going back and looking at Aaron at the Musi app, to come back to that for a second, because I pulled up the page, and forgive me if I'm saying anything that you just kind of covered, but I thought it was kind of cool. It says here on their site, Musi app, MUSEY app.com. Users of Musi receive notifications when they are in geographic proximity to your work, which is cool. Users are given information about the artist and the piece, right. And they can respond and and help contribute to future sustainability. So I thought it's cool, kind of the micro donations and stuff, and that's very cool. And you probably already just said this, but I was kind of in.
No, you were searching. You were looking up land.
But this is very cool, and just the way they break it down to street performances, or pavilion sculpture, traveling pieces, or theater live performance and spectacles, or urban events. What do they mean by urban events? They won't tell me.
Like literary festivals and stuff.
Oh, okay. I think they've got an illustration here of a giant puppet.
Did we
walking
sync
through
up
town.
there again?
Pretty much.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like, I love the idea of street performers being able to log in and being like, "Hey, I'm going to be a statue on the corner of 5th and Main."
Well, and they're touting here that you get audience data, so you know kind of who showed up potentially. That's very cool if people do it. That's very cool.
But I think both of them have sort of interesting potentials.
Yeah.
But run the well-known risk of the American attention span for gadgets and gizmos.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I meant more when I was talking about that it would kind of flame on and off, and
Yeah, maybe like while there was a big announcement in the news, people are going to be checking their boycott.
Right.
But, do you really see the average consumer checking each and every product as they go through the supermarket on a daily basis?
Yeah, the few people that I know that are concerned and have that sort of worldview that they don't want to support like a Walmart or certain organizations that put out there all those processed foods, they just boycott by not going to the sort of chain mega stores that exist, and they'll shop more local, or they'll buy local produce, and you know what I mean? They've already kind of removed themselves from that whole.
If you can get out of the web at all, then you can get away from all of the scandals.
Yeah.
Right.
Going back to we were talking about since we're getting futuristic and appy today, Kindle is kind of looking to do a 3D smartphone. Amazon, of all people, are looking to, with the Kindle brand, make a 3D smartphone.
What is a 3D smartphone?
Well, I'll explain. I think it's going to be kind of like the Nintendo 3DS technology, which I'm
not really impressed with.
Yeah.
It's fuzzy and it hurts your eyes to stare at it for a long time.
Yeah, so they're saying...
Well, y'all know my opinion on 3D techs.
They say that... it would allow for 3D images without glasses. It uses retina tracking technology, so maybe it's better than the DS, which just sort of stereoscopes two different images together, and you have a slider so you can determine how much you want to cross your eyes. But yeah, they say this one would appear somehow using the retina tracking. It would I guess calculate the slidey bits on its own. The stereoscopic stuff on its own, and it would make it look like certain images were floating above the screen. So it wouldn't actually be true like 3D, projecting out.
Sure.
But it would be the illusion of that for you, the user, which is kind of weird if you are just watching someone use one of these devices.
So it would only be 3D to you if the eye tracking was able to catch it and
we're
so you would have to view it at like the exact right angle, and if it didn't sync up,
pretty good.
The information wouldn't be
we're
visible.
apparently pretty good at doing this now, at doing the retina tracking, because the Samsung Galaxy, I think S3 One of those. A lot of the Android devices these days are doing the Retina scroll.
Yeah.
The tracking your eyes for scrolling.
But it's been real glitchy and not refined, though.
Oh, really?
I mean,
I don't have one, so I don't know.
Well, that's just kind of what I've heard. So I'm curious to see how or if Kindle's
Right.
going to do anything different,
Right.
or how they can make
but
this leap.
if you've got, and you've got, Google, who's their glass stuff probably also uses eyes to sort of track stuff. We're taking the leap into tracking eyes. Whether or not we're any good at it, I guess I don't really know. But this is using that idea as well. This idea of tracking your eyes for navigation as well as the 3D effect.
So they're not. So the image is not really floating above your screen.
No,
it's just
not
a
in reality.
perception.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a perception.
Okay.
But isn't everything just perception?
It is, but no, here's what I was thinking of, man. I was thinking of like, oh, so you're checking your bank statement and all of your important numbers are floating above the screen and guy who's standing behind you is looking down at the right angle and now can see all of your personal information. Now, granted, they could do that now already and peek over your shoulder and I suppose
Right.
do that. But when you said 3D, instantly I was imagining like, I don't know, Minority Report type world where the holograph is floating above and,
I would like to go back and do a user interface study of how effective the Minority Report interface actually is. That's like LCARS.
Almost. I mean, yeah, I feel like most sci-fi interfaces have to be more spectacle because you're watching somebody use a computer
Sure.
than any actual practical element. It's like looking at like hackers, and they project like stereoscopic over everybody's faces, and I'm like,
That's
there's
funny.
no computer.
It's funny that you say that because I was telling Jeff I was actually watching a movie from the early 90s and he pointed, as I described it to him, Jeff goes, oh, that movie's called Hackers. And that's exactly what it was.
And he was like, I mean, there's these guys, and this girl, and they're like, they're kind of like, they hack into things. They're kind of, hack.
But I missed the beginning of the movie, so I missed the title. But I was like, it had all of these people that are famous now, like Angelina Jolie's in it. She looks like she's 16. The guy Jason Segel, who sort of rebooted the Muppets and was in How I Met Your Mother, he's in it. He looks like he's like 14. And so, but yeah, they're all hackers, and but that's exactly it. Whenever they went into the mainframes or databases, and I remember as a kid, I was still at that point, computers are magic. It was before I met you guys. I remember I would just be totally amazed at this like virtual world that was zooming past their faces and all the weird like 101s that would sort of drip down Matrix style.
I'm Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, exactly. Lawnmower Man. So, and so it was really funny now, based on what my grasp of what computers are now, and to go back and watch that movie and go, wow, that's ridiculous. That people like me at the time thought that that's what it was. But,
I remember, that's funny because, movies communicating that the idea that things have to virtually represent things in the real world.
Yeah.
Kind of like covered in that Snow Crash book that Aaron likes, that I like as well, that I'm not very far into. But right now we're in the big like skeuomorphism should die kind of movement of design culture in OS stuff. And we all know skeuomorphism.
No, please go through.
Skeuomorphism is that thing that says that digital interfaces should work on a real world analogy context. So like your calendar should look like a desk calendar. Like leather on it and crap. Or that like your address book should look like an address book, with pages. Or a real extreme example is I have a fondness for Packard Bell Navigator. And this is a thing that came with my Windows 3.11 computer and back in 1990 something, 2, 3, 4, whatever. You turn on your computer, and rather than going to the Windows desktop, which was strange to me at the time, you would go into this living room. And in the living room, there was a library. And you could pick certain books to do certain things. Or if you clicked on the desk, you could find, a calendar or whatever. You could, when you installed programs, they would go to different places in the library, different rooms of the house, stuff like that. And you would walk around this virtual house and certain things equated to certain things, and somehow you're kind of supposed to get it. It's supposed to make it friendly and like easy and like, whatever. And then you move forward, okay, and an example that's still around that is maybe a better example, even though it's not really at all the way computers work. If you really, really think about it, are folders, file folders. We put up this analogy of folders, and even file. The thing that is a file itself is kind of weird, because you think of a file. It's we're equating it to a sheet of paper. Well, it's way more complicated than a sheet of paper, and files like on the old Mac OS don't even require the extension that we're used to seeing. Because I came from PC and I'm used to seeing .txt as a text file. Well, in Mac OS, and I don't know if they do some of the Linux stuff as well, you could it would just know it was a text file. It was inside of it without having to put the extension or whatever. Anyway, I think it's kind of like the way that Earth is this really strange thing in the universe, and the rest of the universe is sort of normal, but we don't think of it that way. Like the fact that we have liquid water in abundance and stuff like that is kind of odd. So the fact that we're doing trying to take all the weird stuff that a computer does and say, well, this is like a big file cabinet, and this is how this is going to work. When really, if you draw all the weird connections of what files connected to what and what resources draw from what, it's this crazy web thing. Anyway,
I would agree with you on that, based on because reading a lot about brain mapping and neuroscience recently, and how there's a big challenge within the neuroscientist community of getting away from your brain as using a computer as the model, for that same reason, that it's not quite as clean and the connections aren't there. But again, that's because, if I understand you, what our perceived understanding of what the computer model is.
Well, we just needed a way to get in. As a if you're not a programmer, you're not doing punch cards, or you're not Ed Gottlieb. Like, how do you figure out how these things work if you're just everyday whatever? So
well, that's what a meta is for.
I guess so, but I mean, like it definitely had its place, like in the development, ways to just make it a computer friendlier. Like, I think skeuomorphism was really useful and helpful and friendly and great. And now that we all kind of know, a computer does this and this is what it is, I see why it's starting to go away. But people are really anti it right now.
But I think you're overgeneralizing in terms of how many people understand what it is. Because I would say I'm still pretty far out there of understanding. And
okay, all right, that's fine. But I would say that I would argue that, and I think this is what people that hate skeuomorphism are, even though I kind of like it, but people that hate it, perhaps they're arguing that there's got to be a way that the machine can teach you how to use it without having to be so literal as to what it is. For example, certain things. Okay, look at Windows 8 right now. Okay, which is, even though commercially it's not doing well, it's sort of being touted as a very edgy kind of design. It's really flat, but there are things there that are useful, like that. Look at it another way. To look at it another way, it would be the expression of it's not trying to. It's being minimalist or simple or whatever. It's not trying about taking everything away. It's about getting down to what you really can't do without. You know what I mean? The things that you really need to progress forward in whatever you're going to do. Because the whole point of a computer is, this is a thing that is going to help you do something better, easier, faster. This is a thing that's going to help free up your brain so that you can think about something else, so it can do this thing, right? And it can kind of get out of your way. And I think we're at an interesting point of interface design right now, where people are trying to figure out, how do we teach you what we can do, and often in really, really advanced ways, without relying on tricks that we've relied on in the past. I know I'm kind of rambling, but
well, I think that you're also going to find that you may move from the current
kitsch To the new kid.
Yeah. I think we're always going to need some form of metaphor to connect a real
The
analog
king is
world.
dead. Long live the king.
So we're going to move away from files and folders because nobody uses files and folders anymore because we're on computers now. And so we're going to switch to whatever, tiles or whatever, but that's still a metaphor. That's still a digital representation of an analog idea. Because humans are all about metaphor
But
all the
maybe I
freaking
can open
time.
up my calendar and it doesn't have to have a bunch of leather stitching. And
Does your
look
calendar have leather stitching?
They do, yes.
Oh.
As a
On your
big-
precious Macs,
Yes.
they pretend your calendars
Yes.
are leather bound?
Yes, and that's the thing. Skeuomorphism is huge on Mac. Now that Johnny Ive has taken over as chief, Johnny Ive took over as chief hardware and software design guy now. So for the first time ever, hardware and software design is integrated. And he hates skeuomorphism, and he's getting rid of it. in
Isn't he the
his
one who
stuff.
introduced the wallet and billfold thing?
I don't know.
There was like a pocket full of all your cards.
Oh, passbook.
Oh, okay.
That
Yeah.
no, that was Scott Forstall,
Okay.
I believe.
I thought he was the
He
new
used to
guy.
be-
He was the old new guy?
Scott Forstall was the head of
The king is dead.
Here's the thing. The king is dead in Apple Land,
Yeah.
which was Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was huge into building all those metaphors that we're talking about earlier with okay, like, you turn on the Mac and it would smile at you back in the day. It'd be a little smiley face. Oh, that's nice. And there's this woman who developed this wonderful kind of set of icons for the Mac. And Steve Jobs really, really liked the idea of, these things should equate to something in real life so that users can get into it. A great idea when the graphical user interface was brand new, right? A great way to get the culture to transition, I think. So great that, it was around for a long time. But he, obviously Steve remained a big thing at Apple, up until he passed and beyond. But even as an older gentleman with very, very tight reins on how these things are going to look, he would push for the skeuomorphism more and more. So his thing is like, yes, the calendar should have leather. Yes, things on iOS should have a certain kind of look to them. And so in a way, it never got to grow. Do you know what I mean? In a way, while we got sometimes it was, I thought, really cool and really pretty looking. We didn't get to really kind of grow and bleed from a software look and feel. Do you know what I mean? And now that Johnny Ive has taken over as both hardware and software after Scott Forstall got the boot, he's number one going to try to really make software and hardware more unified, because those teams used to be completely separate development teams, which is crazy. You develop your software, you develop your hardware, and we'll mash them together and make sure that they somehow are coherent, because you've got Steve Jobs in the background saying, I know it's going to look like this, and I know it's going to be like this, and I'm not going to tell them, until they smash together, but I know, right? And now that, anyway, and so now I just think that things are going to change, and they have to change because design wise they're behind now. Is the opinion, and opinion is law in these things. You know what I mean?
It'll be interesting to see how it turns out. Again, being a very outsider, I feel that a lot of this skeuomorphism and things are playing on, it seems, based on what you just said, it's playing on things that are already kind of naturally wired into human brains and how we relate to that which is outside of ourself. And so
that's all. That'd be all design, though, right? I mean,
yeah. But again, there are parts of our brain that are hardwired to look for faces and things, because so that we can recognize people in our tribe, and we can recognize danger hiding in the bushes, and you know what I mean. That's never going to go away. And so I feel that the design that has made it accessible is the design. Maybe you're right. I mean, maybe they'll find some new way. I just don't. I don't know. I cannot even begin to imagine what it is. But that's, that could probably be said of somebody from 100 years ago could not imagine the access point of what would make it relatable now.
Yeah. But,
so,
but you're also looking at the designers are artists, and these software designers have artistic backgrounds, and every now and again when a company can push with some money behind it, okay, let's explore, let's branch out, let's try something different. I think that's really cool. But also, I bet you that we are in the last good solid throes of the two-dimensional interface. And then what happens when the three-dimensional interface is really like an actual practical thing that we're using all the time. I think it's going to be very different. I think, when a computer behaves less like an analogy of something that exists and more like a creature that breathes, that you respond to, that teaches you what it wants and how to get it to do what you want it to do, is going to be an interesting world. You know what I mean?
So you're saying if the internet thinks I'm famous, it's functionally the same as me being famous.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, all right then.
We're one step closer to LCARS.
The worst operating system in the multiverses.
But it looks good on movies. Yeah. We should probably sign off.
Okay.
I'm Jeff, and to stop listening to this podcast, click the icon that looks like ears bleeding. Yeah.
I'm Aaron, and you may not be aware of this, but I'm famous.
If you say a lie long enough and loud enough. No, sorry. Sorry. I'm Adam, and metaphors sheep to graze in.
Nice.
that was a terrible slur of a very old joke.
You think your podcast is safe?
I'm turning to the Emperor.
You are, yeah. Kill them.
Nice.
All of them.
Nice.
That was Adam.
In case you couldn't tell.
In case you couldn't tell.
We haven't added a fourth member to the podcast.
Well, if he did, what would his point of view be?
Of this whole thing?
Yeah. What would he be? How would he sign off?
I think he just did.
I think I did. Kill them. Kill
Kill
all
them
of them. Kill all of them. He would just kill them all. Kill them all and let the Force sort them out.
Nice. Nice.
Let the midichlorians sort them out. Hope they don't bring them back.
Goodbye,
for the new
Internet.
movie.
Goodbye, Internet.
I hope the Force becomes magical again.
Well, they've really backed away from it pretty hard already, so I think it's a good chance.
Good. JJ, back that thing up. Undo what Uncle George did. Make it right
Hands the
again.
Uncle George.
Hands the Uncle George.
Okay, good
He
night.
said I was his favorite.